conscience plays a big part in the long-term decisions of our lives. But the decisions that we make can be influenced by outsiders that don't have our best interests at heart. They can be influenced by the dark side, demons and things like this that will penetrate and harm and distort and misdirect the decisions that we need to make. But that's all right, because that's one way in which we become aware of what we're up against. As these bad decisions are made and the consequences of those decisions work out in our lives, we should, but it's not always what happens for people, find a way of realizing that the drugs, the alcohol, the chemicals that we take, the doctor's prescriptions, and the way in which the masses are being misled by the lies and deceitfulness of the things that they believe to be true. It's the harm and the pain and the consequences of this that make us aware of the fact that these things require a very exclusive form of thinking, a thinking that the dark side is not going to encourage, an approach that the contemporary modern woke society is not going to encourage, a view of things that protects us from the programming of today's society, which is to take as many medications as you can, as much drugs as you can, and this kind of thing, to keep you on the cycle of progressive micro-incremental self-destruction. And along with this comes all the breakups and the pain and heartache that happens with that. People have lost touch with what really matters now. They're more interested in managing their mental health in a way in which actually affects their mental health. If you say to somebody, go right, they go left. If you say to somebody, don't take that, they take it. If you say to somebody, well, that ain't going to work for you, all of a sudden they're doing it, and of course it doesn't work. I've seen this in the way in which some of these parents raise their children. They put into them what I always described as an opposite directional dysfunction disorder, where the sarcasm and the antagonism that they lived with caused them to have this opposite directional dysfunction disorder. If something seemed to be right and it was going to bring good, they'd go in the opposite direction and end up on the bad side of the street, maimed and harmed. And these people become your typical drug addict, nymphomaniac that ends up with nothing. They live on a newspaper. That's why you see them with ink marks on them that look like bruises. It's really only the ink off the newspapers that they lay on. And the newspaper is very handy to somebody that's struggling. You can smoke it, you can use it as a blanket, you can roll it up into a pillow, and you can still read it if you get bored. They can still read the newspaper, of course, if they can see clear enough. But we must remember a lot of these people have allowed themselves to be influenced by forces and other addicts and things that have led them down a path that they've glorified that led to death. This is what makes them, as the Bible describes, fools. They didn't allow the value of wisdom and the things that come with wisdom to be important enough to protect them from the mindset that they created, in which, of course, they're formed to believe they're a victim. Of course, they're a victim. of life, this then justifies further self-destructive behavior through dope, alcohol, and meeting people that they don't know and pulling their panties off and showing their nakedness to people that they don't know who won't appreciate it. Being abused and ending up with diseases and getting chopped up by the doctors to try and fix these things that they've done to themselves. Like a smoker eventually will get their toes chopped off, possibly their fingers, and they'll end up on chemo, and they'll sit outside the hospital with the chemo dripping into them, or a drip or something. You'll see them smoking and you'll just say to yourself, well, this is how these people end up, and they'll fight for it. They'll fight for it. They'll want to be able to have their self-destructive habits. They'll cry, scream, they'll steal, lie, they'll hurt people, maim people and themselves to get their supply of drugs and alcohol and chemicals, and then they'll use whoever they can for emotional and supply, including their pets. A lot of pets are abused, even though you don't see it on the surface. A lot of these owners are using their pets as a form of emotional supply. And of course this does no good for the pet or the owner. Get out of it. This silly dog's decided to go, get down. Get down. He's gone stupid. He's having a testosterone boost here. Come on, hup, hup. Okay, I've settled him. These Boston Terriers, they load up on testosterone and then they lose their sanity. Can be for 5 or 6, 7 or 8, 9, 10 minutes. Then they settle down again when the testosterone's passed through their system. And a lot of these people today that are in the matrix are running on dopamine, and then when they get disappointed, cortisol, which means they need to find something to bring up the dopamine levels again. And of course, once the dopamine's run out on a natural level, they'll turn to, again, drugs, alcohol, and other means of things that will get the dopamine stores flowing again. But when dopamine's depleted over a long period of time, it doesn't refill and produce as quickly as it should. And then this is when people start to go around the bend, because they're addicted to the dopamine and it's just not there for them to have. So they find other ways of meeting that need that don't work anymore. In other words, they'll have sex with somebody that it worked with once, and now it's not working anymore because they've depleted their dopamine stores. The dopamine is not there to give them that kick. So what really was happening was, it wasn't that the person was in love with you or anything like that. They were going on the feeling and the senses they were getting from you through that experience. And as you wise up to the fact that this person, it's not a matter of whether they love you or not, it's a matter that they're not getting the buzz, the dopamine hit that they got from you once upon a time, and now they're finding it from somebody else. And it might not even possibly be at the level of which it was being released for them from you. But they're following the dopamine trail. They're following a path that's giving them the hit. And when you realize that you were just a form of supply that allowed them to have that hit, you detach, you begin to come back to yourself, You realize that you've been duped and used. You get on with your life. You restore yourself, focus on yourself, get your sleep, diet, exercise and other things right, and leave that person at the mercy of the dopamine pursuit.